introduction here. Hey, it's Ben Sweet with the Anxiety Resolution Method. How are you doing? I'm really glad that you joined us today. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Graham Parish, and Graham is a mind coach, and he is the type of person that is one of life's little helpers, as he would say. And Graham has a very large toolbox of different ways that he helps people with anxiety. And Graham, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Hi Ben, good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's funny, Graham, is I don't even know where are you? You're in the UK somewhere, yes?
I'm right down south in the UK. You can't go much further without getting your feet wet.
Okay.
I'm down in Portsmouth in the UK.
Portsmouth. Okay. Great. So now, Graham, obviously the topic of the day is anxiety. It's panic attacks. It's about, how we can help people to, come to peace around it, how they can, free themselves from it, how they can, even just carve out a little bit more feeling good, a little bit more peace, a little bit more control, a little bit more, of who they really are, as opposed to that, that dark veil of anxiety that sometimes can come over and stick with people for a long time. So what, can you tell us a little bit about, your history of it and how it kind of worked its way into your life?
What, the anxiety?
Yeah.
The anxiety has always been there.
Yeah.
From a very young age.
Yeah.
I can always remember feeling anxious about, things, whatever
Yes.
they are. And I suppose like most people, I created a little comfort zone around myself. And I would live in that comfort zone, and anything that approached getting near out of the comfort zone was a big deal for me. So I haven't, in the past, really pushed myself that much. And it's only been recently that I've actually discovered that I can break out of that comfort zone. And I think that because I've discovered that and how that I've done it, it's made me want to help people as well.
Okay.
It's that thing that we all search for, isn't it? That purpose in life. We're all put there for a reason. Yeah. And I like to think my reason is to be able to help people in some way. And then if I just help one person, that's brilliant,
Yeah. I agree. Now, we talked about a few different things kind of before the interview, just to kind of give, the listeners an understanding as to some of the stuff we talked about. So one of the tools that you use is NLP, and another one that you use is hypnosis. What kind of experiences have you noticed? And the reason I ask is because I tried some hypnosis myself, and I gave someone lots of money, and I didn't really notice any change for me. And it wasn't my plan to really put you on the spot, but I know that not every person is created the same, and not every technique is the same, and not everyone who uses the technique uses it the same way, and everyone has different understandings about things. But can you talk to me a little bit about, and tell us a little bit about how what you do is different from what other people do?
Well, I'd love to. I'd love to tell you what I do. I can't tell you what I do is different from other people, because I really don't know what other people do.
Okay.
I don't know what it's like for you where you are, but over here, it's a big industry training people to be therapists.
Okay.
Yeah. Training people to be hypnotherapists, be counsellors, that sort of thing is a big industry.
Okay.
And they're churning people out at a rate of knots. Now, when I first started doing this about 10 years ago, it was quite unusual to train to be a hypnotherapist. And to actually set up in practice and make some money out of it was quite a big deal. Yeah. Now, I know someone locally, a good friend of mine, who trains people, and they turn out about 30 hypnotherapists a year. That's a lot of people doing hypnotherapy. And to be honest, some training schools aren't that good.
Sure.
Yeah, they're after the dollar. That's what they want. And they churn people out.
Right.
It takes a long time to get to know what you're doing to be a hypnotherapist. I've got a big book of words here, a big book of scripts that I could use, but I don't find that works because everybody is different. Okay.
Right.
Your anxiety, my anxiety, the person next door's anxiety, they're all different, driven by different life experiences, driven by, different things that they've got to do in the way they experience it.
Yeah.
So the therapy has to be different as well. It all has to be tailor-made to that particular person, which is kind of where the NLP comes in, I suppose. You need to listen to what that person's telling you.
Yes. Now, before we go further, I'm sure there's lots of people that don't really know what NLP is. Can you just explain it just a little bit?
Yeah, it's called neuro-linguistic programming.
Okay.
Neuro-linguistic programming is, I suppose, it's all the best bits of therapy and psychology under one umbrella. So,
okay.
What NLP is a thief. It's stolen all the good stuff from everybody.
Right.
It's
okay.
stolen all the hypnosis. It's stolen all the psychology, and in essence, it's noticing the way people do things. It's modelling.
Okay.
Finding out how people do things. So, like where a sports coach would model, let's say a golfer, he would model how he does golf and then teach it to somebody else. Okay. We can do the same with how people have anxiety,
okay.
or how people smoke, or how people get overweight. We can find out how they do it. And pretty much, if you understand how you do it, you can unpick it, and then you can put it back together in a different way.
I agree with that.
Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And the reason why is because the way that I help people with anxiety and the way that, my course and my, video coaching works is that it's very similar in that it's about uncovering how and why you do it, and about what it is about you, what aspect of you, feels the need for it, or creates it, or brings it about in one specific reason, or as you would say, chooses it, right? Why you do it, and then as a result, when you understand why you do it, you can undo why you do it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think probably the best way if you model somebody, if you find out how they do it, they then have that choice as to whether to do it or not, because they know how they do it. When you're doing it unconsciously, you have no control over it. It just happens. So that's the difference. That's why I would use the word choose.
Yes. Yeah.
So
now, before you go further, I just want to jump in on something else in regards to modeling, because I've always felt that modeling is huge, and that's why we all hear those phrases of, you end up the average of the 5 people you spend most time with, and those types of things. Well, a lot of that has to do with modeling, right? And so I've been a huge fan of that concept for a long time, and I find that it's, whether you're aware of it or not, it is happening. And so that's one of the other reasons they say you should always be aware of the things that you absorb, and the TV that you watch, and the books that you read, and the people you're around, because you will end up taking some of it on, right? And that's where, discretion and discernment really comes in as well. And so I guess for me, I mean, when I was growing up, my father he had panic attack issues. Now, as a teenager, I didn't really have any, or sorry, as a young, not a young adult, but under the age of 20, I never really had any issues with anxiety. Maybe when I was a little kid, but then, in my early adult years, no issues. But then once I got into my, let's say, for me, it started when I got into my late 20s, early 30s, and it got really, really bad. But it's interesting because at that time, the person I was spending the most amount of time with on a day-to-day basis had really, really bad anxiety. And for her, I mean, like, I believe that I really kind of observed it, and I took it on from her. And so I guess maybe, could you tell us a little bit more about modeling and your opinion of it? Because I think there's some people that could really have a little bit of an understanding that would be helpful for them to understand how and why it originally came into their lives, and how they ended up modeling someone else who got that.
Yeah, while you're talking about that, something else just popped into my mind. There's 2 things there. When you're with somebody else, okay, and you're, if you're in a room with somebody who's really down and depressed, it's really hard not to absorb that. Much is the same if you go into a room where there's somebody who's really upbeat and, life and soul of the party, it's hard not to smile, and it's contagious.
Yeah.
That's not modeling. That's your mirror neurons in your mind.
Mirror neurons, okay.
That's your mirror neurons in your mind, because we have according to science, we have these mirror neurons in our mind that enable us to mirror other people, because once we can mirror other people, we can pick things up from them, we can learn from them. Okay, whether that be good, whether that be bad. we can still learn and we can catch that stuff.
Yes.
And we can use it as we see fit.
Yeah.
Which is really how, if you start to think about when you meet somebody and you try to get rapport with them, or you get in rapport with them, you start to mirror them, don't you?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. You sit there and you scratch your nose and they scratch theirs and all this sort of stuff.
Yes.
And changing the way you sit and cross your legs and they do the same. That's mirror neurons. That's your brain trying to be like somebody else. Okay. But when you're talking about modeling, that's a different concept. Modeling is more about you intentionally wanting to find out how it's done.
Okay.
Automatically.
Okay.
So, for instance, if you do an NLP training course, part of your training has to be that you have to model something.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Have you heard about this?
I did a course a long time ago. And probably about 12 years ago or so. It was fascinating. It was pretty interesting.
So it's really interesting if you have to model somebody on how they did something. Now, for my training course, which was good 10 years ago now, I decided to model people who did clay pigeon shooting.
Who? What? Sorry.
Who did clay pigeon shooting?
Oh, okay.
Is it called clay pigeon for you? I don't know.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, skeet shooting.
So somebody goes, pull a clay goes flying through, and they go, bang. Yeah. And I wanted to know the exact point that they pulled the trigger.
Okay.
I wanted to know what made them pull the trigger, because obviously if you pull it at the wrong time, you're going to miss the clay.
Yeah.
So that's what I modeled. That was my model. And I was lucky. I found about 4 people that did clay pigeon shooting. One of them took me along and I did a clay pigeon shoot as well, just to get the feel of it.
Yeah.
And it was interesting that all those 4 people didn't know how they did it. They didn't have an idea. They didn't, it just comes up and I just go bang. And I had to stop them and take them back through the process. And it turns out that it was an unconscious thing. And the way that they knew how to pull the trigger was because all the muscles in their stomach tightened up. So as they went through, they tightened up and steadied themselves. Then they pulled the trigger. So the mind went, now is the right time. Now we brace the body. Now we pull the trigger.
Right. Yeah.
So that's modeling. That's finding out how somebody does something. So,
okay.
Until you work out exactly when you pull the trigger, you don't know how it's going to happen. They just did it naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's modeling. So
okay.
If somebody's doing anxiety, and it is doing anxiety, they don't have it, they do it.
Okay.
Then you need to find out what it is that they do to make themselves feel anxious.
Okay.
Does that kind of make sense?
It does. Yeah. I'm taking some notes here as we chat.
The reason I use the clay pigeon thing was it's a useful metaphor. How do they know when to pull their trigger?
Yes.
Yeah. Because until they pull that trigger, they can't feel anxious. So at what point, if you ask somebody to break it down, what did you do before? What did you do before? Take it backwards. What did you do before? Until you find out what they did.
Yeah. What did you do before? What did you do? Yeah. Well said. Yeah.
So if you kind of deconstruct it backwards, it stops them from being too logical. Oh, I just this. And for a lot of people, it starts with a thought.
Yes. Yeah. What if?
Or maybe it's what if. Maybe for some people, it's they've seen something or they've heard something. Something has triggered a thought in their mind.
Yes.
That has connected to their subconscious, and their subconscious has gone, oh, this is dangerous. We're on red alert now. Bang.
Yes.
And it pulls the trigger. So it could be something they've seen, smells, tasted, sights. It could be anything that pulls their trigger.
Okay.
But once you find out what pulls the trigger, you realize that it's a thought that's doing it.
Yeah.
Once you realize it's that thought, then you can look at that thought. Where does that thought come from? Is it real?
Is it what, sorry?
Is it real?
Is it real? Yes, yeah.
Or is it just a thought? Is it just a memory? So can you see, once you find the point that you pull the trigger at, you then have the choice as to whether to feel anxious or you think, actually, that's just a thought. What's the reality of the situation?
Right. Yeah.
So that's modeling.
Okay.
That would be modeling, going back to find the point that the trigger's pulled.
Yes. Before I go further, I keep stopping you only because you're saying some great things, and I want to make people aware of of kind of your thought process and part of your understanding of things, you said something really, really very interesting that a lot of people, and I would imagine you're fully aware of this, but a lot of people think they have anxiety. But the truth is just like you said, have it versus do it, right? So anxiety isn't necessarily something you have, it's something you do. But people think that it's something that happens to them. They think I'm a victim to anxiety, right? And for someone who feels very much underneath it, or someone who has chronic panic attacks, right? Like maybe 1 or 2 per day, or multiple per day, or multiple per week, they feel very much that's not anything they're doing. It's something that's happening to them. And as a result, they're doing anything they can to find some way to get control over what is happening to them. Now, for everyone that's listening, I need you to understand that when I do the rabbit ears and I talk about it that way, I'm not making fun of you. I was there in a big way. Graham was obviously there in a big way. And everybody that we talk to has an understanding that at some point in our own lives, we fully understood and believed also that it was something that was happening to us versus something that we are doing. Now, obviously, the doing is an unconscious thing, but I just wonder if you could share a little bit, Graham, about having versus doing.
Okay.
It's big, I know.
It is big. It's just trying to line it up so that it makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example, right, of something that happened to me about 2 or 3 months ago.
Okay.
I no longer have anxiety, but I still do it. Okay, it still catches me.
Yeah.
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 And this is one of the reasons I'm so passionate about helping people with it, because I know how I stop it in its tracks. Right. So about 2 or 3 months ago, I was working with some clients, and I don't know why, but hypnotherapy's great, okay, but you can't hypnotize everybody.
Can't hypnotize everybody. Okay. You can't
hypnotize everybody. Some people don't want to be hypnotized, or they're not fully into it and it doesn't work for them. And there are just some people that are far too analytical. Okay. They just analyze everything and they won't let themselves go into the situation.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, I had a run of about 2 or 3 clients where the sessions didn't go as well as I would have liked. Okay. Now that's not for anything that I did. It was just the fact that those people weren't in the right place at the right time, sure, or we didn't gel, but we didn't achieve the depth of hypnosis that I'd really like to get.
Yes.
And to be honest with you, I'd rather say to somebody, look, it's not going to work with us. I'll refer you on to someone else, whatever,
Sure.
I don't want to work with people that want to work with me.
Yes.
Those 2 people really, really shook me to the core, because what I wanted to do didn't work. What I wanted to do, see, you hear the language, and it didn't work. And it really started to rock me. And I started to get doubts creeping in that I could do this. It's a bit like a golfer that gets the yips, yeah?
It's a what, sorry?
Like a golfer that gets the yips, where they talk themselves into the golf shot and it doesn't work.
Oh, yeah.
So it got to the stage where I was expecting a couple of new clients along, and I really started to wind myself up about it. And I'm standing looking out the window waiting for these people to turn up. And I had a small panic attack. While I waited for one of these clients to turn up. And my mind was just going into overdrive. What if? Yeah. And it was not only in my mind, it was in my body. And I was actually doing anxiety.
Yes.
Because I was doing anxiety, because I was letting the thoughts get away in my mind, it started to have an effect on my body, and I could feel my body going. And to the extent where I thought, this is crazy, I even thought I won't answer the door. Yeah, I can't do this. That's a panic attack.
Emergency. Yeah. Emergency.
Overload. All the red lights are going off.
Yeah.
And I just had to go, right, okay, what's happening here? Really think about it. What's happening here? And when I realised the situation, when I looked at it, when I thought, look, this is just a thought, it's all coming from inside me. The person that is coming to see me has only talked to me on the phone. We've only had an email. They don't know me. I don't know them. They have no preconceived idea of what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. you know, it could go really well. Like most of my sessions think, oh, it could be like one of them. So I really looked at the reality. And once I started to look at the reality, I began to realize that I was doing this to myself.
Yeah.
Because there was actually no threat. No one was going to come and kill me. No one was going to beat me up. No one was going to rob me. I wasn't going to die. It just felt like I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was actually doing this to myself. I was causing myself to feel anxious.
Yes. Yeah.
So I didn't have anxiety. My thoughts made me feel anxious. They did it to me.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the only way I can really explain doing it rather than having it.
Right.
Because I don't want ownership of that.
Right.
I don't want to have that. If I had that,
my anxiety, right?
Yeah, I'd want to send that back if that got delivered to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. I'll take a refund. Thanks.
Turns out I get a refund on that. I'm not having that.
Yeah.
So that is how we, that's how I do it. My thoughts generate all this, and it's the mind-body link, isn't it? Whatever the mind can conceive, it can make the body believe.
Yeah.
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 It's kind of like that placebo effect in reverse.
Yeah.
You to quieten yourself down, you take one to wind yourself up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. One of the biggest things that I think that probably happens as a result of what you do with NLP, which is a lot of the same stuff that I do, is that we end up taking the truth out of the possibility of the thought. Meaning, this person who's coming to the door, like they could hurt me, or I could get hurt, or something bad could happen. So when you do NLP or you do hypnosis for people, you take away the truth of that possibility, right? So even though this person is coming to the door, it doesn't equal I can be hurt, or it doesn't equal that this is a threat, right? So when we take away that possibility, we take away the truth of that thought. And as a result of that, my opinion is that we end up thinking those thoughts less, right? Because we know it's not a possibility, so why even think about it? And as a result, the mind doesn't even offer it up. Or if it does get offered up, there's no connection for us. We don't go, brrr, it's not alive, right? I always think about it in terms of, is it alive, or is it dormant, or does it not exist for you at all? So, some people will say, oh, this anxiety, it just came out of the blue, or this panic attack came out of the blue. You probably hear that one all the time. I was just going about my life, and then all of a sudden I had this panic attack one day. It's like, well, that's what you think, but a deeper truth is that it doesn't come out of the blue. This stuff's alive in there somewhere, and then all of a sudden one day it just becomes animated. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. Because you give it life, don't you?
Yeah.
You feed it fuel.
Yeah.
And the fuel that you feed it is your thoughts. But
yeah,
the thing you were talking about, panic attacks there, panic attacks are one side of it, but the other side of it that I see a lot that people come to me for is an anxiety that stops them from living their lives.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not a blown panic attack. It's just that little bit of shrinkage of their comfort zone every day. I mean, I've had people come to see me that can't go into a shop. Okay?
What sort of thing?
A shop, a store. They can't go into a store. Yeah. They can't even go in, because they're anxious about going in.
Yeah.
And they're doing this to themselves with their thoughts. Now, I've got a little metaphor that I'd like to share with you that
please.
I use with my clients. Okay, it is my metaphor, but a lot of people seem to get it, and it comes from the thing that, have you ever heard that phrase? Your train of thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Train of thought. Yeah.
Train of thought. Yeah. So I kind of I think to myself that I'm like a train station. Okay, where the trains pull in. And I think of my thoughts as trains.
Okay.
Now, I do live near a station, and I hear the trains quite often. But there are trains are pulling in all day long. Okay. I mean, I have no idea how many thoughts we have in a day. It's probably hundreds of thousands, probably nearly millions, I would have thought, of thoughts, individual thoughts that come and go. And most of them are pretty harmless. But every now and then there's one that comes along that isn't very nice. And I kind of think of all these thoughts that come along as trains. Now, the harmless ones, I'm quite happy to let them pull in the station and go away and go wherever they're going. But every now and then, one will pull into the station. Maybe it's an anxious thought. Will pull into the station, and I don't even think about it. I just get on it. I get on that train, and that train just takes me off to where I don't want to go. Yeah, it's the land of panic, it's the land of anxiety, wherever it's going. Anxietyville, wherever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be on that train. But like with the panic attack I was telling you about that I had a while ago, I was on it and I wasn't in any control. It was a runaway train. It was gone. It was off down the track. And it wasn't until I realised I was on it that I realised that I could pull the emergency cord and I could stop the train and I could get off. And that's what I did. I pulled the emergency cord, I stopped the train and I got off.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's kind of how I see my thoughts. And I realise now that of all the trains that pull in, of all the thoughts that pull in, I choose which ones I get on now. I want the good ones. And if there's a bad one rolls up, I go, I don't want that. And I'll wait for another one to come on the good one.
Yeah.
But I can always get off and I can always go in another direction. I can always stop that train.
Right.
That makes sense.
It does. Yep. Makes lots of sense. And there's a bit of a cognitive approach in that, right? Like it's an intentional thing to not get on that train, right?
Or to realise that you're on it.
Or to realize that you're on it. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of this stuff is unconscious. Your mind is firing it off. Your mind's trying to do this to help you, believe it or not.
I agree. Yeah. I always tell people there's anxiety is some form of protection mechanism.
Yeah. It is some form of protection mechanism.
Yeah.
And your mind is using tricks that it's used before on you to make you safe, to get you out of what it thinks is a perceived danger, which it probably isn't.
Yeah.
So, this is subconscious stuff. This all happens before you're even aware of it.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a guy actually that you can look up, a scientist. I think he was turn of the century, a guy called Benjamin Libet. Libet, L-I-B-E-T. And he actually worked out that we actually think a thought starts off in our mind, and it's about a third of a second before we're consciously aware of it. Now, because of the speed that our brain works and the neural pathways that it takes, that thought's well underway before you've got any chance to do anything about it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that saves you. Like if you step out into the road in front of a car, just before you do it, you step back again.
Yep.
That's that thought. Okay, that's that quick. It's like you've done it before you've even thought about it, and then you step back and go, saved my life. Quick reactions. That's what it's there for. But because it goes so quickly, by the time it starts, you can't get off it. Right. It's ages before you're consciously aware of it, and then you're in that loop then, aren't you?
Yeah.
So although you say it's cognitive, it's being aware that you're in it once you're in it. It's this awareness thing again.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So much of it's unconscious, isn't it? That's the hardest part, is that it almost runs without us, right?
But your brain is a learning. The brain is very plastic, isn't it? It's got a lot of plasticity. It can learn. Otherwise, you'd never evolve, would you?
That's right.
If you went to another job, you wouldn't be able to learn it.
Yeah.
Your brain does have this ability to learn, and the thing is, what you want to learn is what you need to feed it.
That's right. Yeah, I agree with that.
So if you have anxiety, you think you have anxiety. Guess what? Your brain thinks you're anxious, and it thinks it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
If you think you're doing it to yourself, why am I making myself anxious? I want to stop that. Then you have to take steps to train your mind to stop it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
And that begins by noticing when you start to do it. And if you can't catch it when, then you catch it as soon as possible. Yeah. And sooner or later, your brain will catch on and go, oh, we're doing it again, we're doing it again, we're doing it again. And it will slowly turn it down, and you'll become more aware of what you're doing. Is
right.
that true?
Yeah, I'm on the train, right? Yeah.
Now, for me, working with a lot of clients, they've already made the choice that they don't want to be anxious anymore. They'll come to see me because they don't want to be anxious. There are things in their life that they want to change.
The reason I do this here and go, yeah, I get you, is because there are so many people out there, and this is not a slight to anyone, but there's so many people out there that are really anxious. They're doing it a lot. They don't realize they're doing it, but yet they're not quite ready to stop it either.
Exactly. Because there's a secondary gain from it. There is
secondary gain. Yep.
From that.
Okay.
And that could be an emotional thing, you know. I have had clients that have anxiety and pretend that they don't want it, but if they weren't anxious, they wouldn't get the attention from their family.
Yeah, that's right. I feel, and I always tell people that there's always a hidden benefit. There's always a hidden benefit to it. There's something there. When you take away the hidden benefit, things are really, really different.
Yeah. And that may just be something as simple as a lack of confidence. You know, the anxiety covers up a lack of confidence or self-esteem. You know, how they think about themselves. Because if you take away that anxiety, guess what? You're going to do a lot of stuff that you haven't done before. You're going to go into a lot of scary places.
Yeah.
Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
And that's frightening. And sometimes it's, you know, this isn't meant in a bad way, but it's easier to have anxiety and have people helping you, pointing in a direction, doing things for you, you know, trying to make you feel better, giving you the attention. Sometimes it's easier to do that than do the scary shit.
Yeah. and when it's easier, when it's perceived that it's easier to have the anxiety, you'll do the anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's always about being, it's always about trying to be up, you know, it's always about trying to find out what people want. You know, people come to see me because they're ready to make change. And I want to be sure that they want to make that change, because you can only help somebody to make the change if they really want it. If they don't want it, it's not going to happen. Okay. They're just going to fight you all the way.
Yeah.
And I suppose, you know, for me, I always ask people on a scale of 1 to 10 how much they want to change. And if they're not, you know, one is like, I'm quite happy as I am, and 10 is just shut up and get on with it, and, you know, let's sort the anxiety out. If they're not at least an 8 or a 9, then there's no point in working with them. Yeah. They've got to really, really want it.
That's right. Yeah.
However, saying that doesn't mean to say you turn those people away.
That's right.
You need to find out what it is that's stopping them from being an 8 or a 9.
That's right. Yeah. If they're a 5 to an 8, then in a lot of cases you can help them get to an 8, right?
Well, I had a lady come in once and she said, I'm a 2. I said, really? What are you doing? She said, oh, my husband wants me to come along. And we sat and had a chat for about an hour. And I said, well, look, I'm not going to take any money from you. I don't, you know, we haven't really done anything. You don't really want to change. There's not much point in wasting my time and your money. I said, if ever you need to come back, then you know where I am. And about 6 months later, she came back. She was ready to change.
Good.
Said, I'm ready to do it now. I'm an 8. First thing she said, I'm an 8.
You're an 8.
and we did some good work. But there's no point in trying to work with somebody that isn't. And you know, even if you don't help somebody with anxiety, at least you can try and uncover what it is that they really want.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. And even just them finding out what they really want is sometimes enough to start the change. Do we all know what we want? No, we don't, do we?
We might know some of it, right? I find the hardest part is knowing the unconscious wants, right? It's that stuff that we're creating, that we're doing, you know, even outside of anxiety, that we're doing, we're making happen, that, you know, we unconsciously want something, but we're unaware of it. It just keeps showing up. It's like, why am I doing that, right?
Because you're thinking about it. You're trying to think something from the unconscious, aren't you?
Yeah.
The unconscious is so deep and so vast that it probably doesn't know what it wants either. It's just running on autopilot, getting you what it thinks it wants.
Right. Yeah.
The killer question to ask any client, okay,
is, sorry, I was just turning the volume down there.
Yeah, sorry. The killer question to ask any client, right, when you're talking to them is, what would you like to have happen? Okay, not what do you want.
Yeah.
What do you want to have happen?
Yes.
And they'll tell you what they want to have happen. And then once they tell you that, you can expand upon it.
Huh.
Yeah.
So you'll write that one down.
I want to go to the shop. Okay, and when you go to the shop, what would that give you? Oh, that would mean I'd be free to go and do this. Okay, and what would being free mean to you? So you can kind of develop what it is they want just from one question. Because if you ask somebody what they want, 9 times out of 10, they'll go, I don't know.
Yeah. Or they'll tell you what they don't want, right?
Which is great. If they tell you what you don't want, you can also work from that, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
So, people are fascinating. I love what I do.
Yeah.
And to see the change, Ben, from somebody that comes in who can't go to the shop, who then comes in and says, "Oh yeah, I went round the supermarket the other day. Brilliant, fantastic, Or now I go out and drive, or I've just been on holiday. These people have had like half a dozen sessions, and they've totally transformed what they've done.
Yeah.
But the key is they've done it, not me.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I'm just the one that puts them in the right direction, hopefully.
Yeah.
But they supply all the information. They do all the work. What can I say? They do it.
Yeah, that's good. Graham, is there anything that you'd like to, if you could tell my subscribers, if you could tell the listeners today something that you feel is very important for them to hear, what would you say?
Something that's very important for them to hear.
That you think they might not know. Yeah.
Okay. Some might not know this. We all think that you put me on the spot now.
That was my plan. That was my plan.
I know what I want to say, Ben.
Yeah. I'm sneaky that way.
Back to front. Okay, so we think that external things control how we feel.
Yeah.
That is the wrong way around. Okay. How you feel comes from inside you.
Yeah.
All right. You can change all the externals you like. Okay. You can, if you're afraid of driving, you can buy the biggest, safest car in the world. You're still going to be afraid of driving. Changing those externals don't do it. All right. If you're afraid of going out, locking yourself in the room and barring yourself in, you're still not going to go out. Yeah. Everything that you experience comes from inside you, and it's the meaning that you put on it and the way that you think about it affects the externals.
Right.
So if you get the inside right, the outside follows.
Yeah. Perfect.
That's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, that's really good. Awesome. Well, hey, Graham, really, really great chat today. So good talking with you. I'm going to put a link down below so that people can access the website. They can get in touch with you. And maybe you can connect with some people and help to create some big change for them. Thanks so much for your time today. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, good talking to you, Ben.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And have yourself a great day.
Yeah, and you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.